The Zorath Imperial fleet slid through the void like a wall of steel and fire, their engines humming with the deep resonance of ancient conquest. At the heart of the armada, the flagship Vorkun was a cathedral of war, a vessel older than most of the species in the Orion Arm, its hull etched with the names of the worlds it had burned. Grand Admiral Karzul stood on the command dais, claws tapping the metal rail as the navigation display showed a distant yellow sun growing larger by the hour. "Admiral," a comms officer intoned, "FTL exit in 19 minutes. Target system: Sol. Primary world: Terra." Karzul's mandibles curled in a slow, predatory smile. "The primitives will bow, or they will be extinguished." The bridge crew chuckled in agreement. Terra was young, its star still burning strong, its people new to the stars. Their weapons, by all Imperial intelligence, were primitive shells and crude plasma bursts. The conquest would be over before their prey even understood the scale of what had come for them. Half a solar system away, Commander Alyssa Grant leaned over a glowing tactical table in the Terran Orbital Command Center. Around her, holographic readouts painted the air in pale blues and greens: orbital tracks, defense grid status, deep-range sensor feeds. "Run the gravimetric scan again," she said. Her chief analyst, Lieutenant Vega, frowned at the stream of data scrolling past. "No change. Same fluctuation, same mass displacement signature." "It's big, ma'am. Multiple signatures. All converging on Sol." Alyssa didn't need confirmation. She'd seen the pattern before, in old classified records from other star systems. "They're coming." Across the wide glass walls of the command center, Earth rotated below, white clouds swirling over green and blue. From this height, it looked peaceful. From experience, Alyssa knew that peace rarely lasted. She turned to the operations pit. "Alert the Defense Council. Secure channels only. No public broadcast yet." The Defense Council's holograms shimmered into life minutes later, 11 figures seated in a crescent of blue light. Their faces ranged from calm calculation to barely masked panic. Counselor Hammond spoke first. "Commander, you're certain of this threat? You understand the political implications if—" "It's not a theory," Alyssa cut in. "The signatures match every known Zorath incursion in the last century. They don't make diplomatic visits. They erase worlds." Another voice, Counselor Liang, leaned forward. "Do we even have confirmation they're aware of us?" "They're aware," Alyssa said flatly. "They're headed here under full fleet power. They will demand surrender. If we give it, humanity dies on our knees. If we refuse, we fight." A silence settled over the council. Finally, President Imani's hologram straightened. "Then we prepare to fight. You have full operational authority, Commander. Earth is in your hands." In the Vorkun's bridge, the countdown to FTL exit ticked away. "Bring up the system schematic," Karzul ordered. The display filled with the Sol system, the faint rings of Saturn, the glint of Jupiter's moons, the small, warm glow of Earth. A junior officer gestured to the planetary profile. "Minimal orbital defenses, Admiral. No fleet presence. Likely automated weapons platforms only." Karzul's grin deepened. "So much the better. They'll have the chance to surrender without bloodshed." For a moment, the Zorath fleet emerged from FTL with the suddenness of a storm breaking. Space rippled and spat them into real space just beyond Neptune's orbit, their formation spreading in a vast arc. On Earth's deep space sensors, alarms tripped instantly. Alyssa watched the feed. Hundreds of contacts, each massing in the millions of tons. Formation was tight, disciplined. "They're here," she said quietly. "Transmission incoming," Vega reported. "They're broadcasting on open channels." The voice that filled the command center was cold and resonant, speaking in perfect Terran standard through a translation filter. "People of Terra, I am Grand Admiral Karzul of the Zorath Empire. You will deactivate your weapons and open your cities to Imperial administration. Non-compliance will result in eradication. You have 1 hour to respond." Every eye in the room turned to Alyssa. She stepped to the comm station, keyed in the response channel, and spoke without hesitation. "Stand by for our answer." She cut the transmission before Karzul could reply. The bridge of the Vorkun went still. "Admiral?" the comms officer asked. "She's stalling," Karzul said. "Let her. The fear will soften them." He turned to his tactical chief. "Deploy the vanguard. Let them see the might of the Empire." Back on Earth, Alyssa's fingers flew over the console, bringing the planetary defense grid to full readiness. Lunar railguns aligned toward deep space, their massive barrels humming with magnetic power. Swarms of autonomous interceptors launched from hidden bays on Mars and Earth's upper atmosphere. Orbital stations shifted position to optimal firing arcs. "Status?" she asked. "All primary systems online," Vega replied. Shields charged, railguns locked, drone control at full sync. Alyssa's gaze fixed on the tactical holomap. The Vanguard ships were already moving toward inner system. Big, slow, confident. "Let them come closer," she said. The minutes stretched like wire. The Vanguard crossed the orbit of Saturn. Then Jupiter. Karzul's voice returned over open comms, mockery dripping from every syllable. "Terrans, your hour is nearly over. Will you kneel, or must we shatter your shells first?" Alyssa gave no reply. When the Vanguard crossed Mars' orbit, she spoke 2 words. "Fire control." On the moon's far side, 6 railguns discharged in perfect unison. There was no flash, no beam, only invisible slugs hurled to a quarter of light speed. They struck moments later. 3 Zorith warships simply ceased to exist. One split apart mid-keel, venting atmosphere and crew into space. The others, shield shredded, tumbled off course in crippled spirals. In the Vorkun, the shock was palpable. "What was that?" Karzul roared. "Kinetic projectiles, Admiral, traveling at relativistic speed. We can't intercept them." Karzul stared at the tactical feed, his smile gone. For the first time in decades, he felt the edges of uncertainty. The ruined hulks of the Zorith Vanguard drifted in silence, their shredded hulls glinting in Sol's distant light. Even through encrypted comms, Alyssa could feel the stunned stillness from the enemy fleet. "Confirmed kills," Vega reported, voice steady but eyes wide. 4 capital ships destroyed, 2 disabled. "Recover the debris if possible," Alyssa said. "No enemy tech goes to waste." On the far side of the system, Karzul's command deck burned with crimson alert lights. The Admiral's mandibles twitched as he replayed the railgun impacts in slow motion, frames showing his ships breaking apart under invisible blows. "Primitive," he muttered. "That was not primitive." The tactical chief stepped forward, hesitant. "Their weapons are unconventional. Extreme velocity kinetics. Shields are ineffective at those speeds." Karzul's gaze narrowed. "Then we crush them before they can fire again. Ready the main battle line." Earth's orbit was already in controlled chaos. Hundreds of drones in perfect formations streamed along preset vectors. Defense satellites rotated into optimal firing arcs. Lieutenant Vega glanced at the tactical map. "Second wave forming, Commander. 80 warships moving in, supported by destroyer screens. They're not holding back this time." "They're still probing," Alyssa said. "They'll throw their full strength only when they believe they've mapped our capabilities." "And if they already have?" Vega asked quietly. "Then we show them they've learned nothing." The second wave entered the asteroid belt like a tide. Smaller Zorith craft peeled ahead, scanning for hidden platforms. Alyssa tracked them in silence. "Hold all fire until they're inside our mid-range kill zone," she ordered. Her crew obeyed without question. The tactical board lit with incoming trajectories, each icon a spear aimed at Earth. Inside the Vorkun, Karzul stood over the sensor pit. "They're not firing. Perhaps they've exhausted their munitions." A junior officer risked a comment. "Admiral, what if?" "Silence," Karzul snapped. "This will be over soon." Alyssa watched the lead destroyers cross a thin blue ring on the holomap, the edge of the kill zone. "Target Destroyer Group Delta," she ordered. From the asteroid shadows, railgun slugs lanced outward. The destroyers evaporated in a cloud of shattered metal. The rest of the fleet reacted instantly, swinging broadside to return fire. "Evasive pattern Bravo," Alyssa commanded. Dozens of drones darted forward, intercepting plasma bolts meant for the railgun positions. One by one, the hidden platforms revealed themselves, firing until their barrels glowed white-hot. "Multiple losses," the Zorith tactical chief barked. "Their weapons are spread across the belt, mobile, not fixed." Karzul's claws dug into the railing. "Enough playing. Bring the siege ships forward. Burn their defenses out of existence." Massive energy signatures lit up the human sensors. Alyssa saw them and didn't flinch. "They're committing heavier assets. All forward stations, prepare for sustained fire." The first siege beam slashed through space, vaporizing an asteroid and the gun platform within. Another beam followed, searing a drone cluster into molten debris. "Losses in sectors 3 and 7, Vega called. "Reallocate drone cover," Alyssa said. "Keep them moving. No fixed positions." Her voice never rose. Even with weapons fire turning the asteroid belt into a graveyard, she moved pieces on the board like a chess master forcing her opponent toward a trap. Inside the Vorkun, Karzul leaned toward the holomap. "They scatter like vermin." The tactical chief hesitated. "Admiral, their movements are coordinated. We've lost more ships than anticipated for this phase." "Then accelerate the next," Karzul growled. "I want their inner orbit breached within the hour." Alyssa heard the shift in enemy movement before the analysts called it. "They're pushing hard," Vega confirmed. "Multiple capital ships breaking toward Mars orbit. No more skirmishing." "They think we're on the back foot," Alyssa said. "Good. Let them come." She keyed into the lunar command grid. "Begin staggered fire from stations 1 through 4. Keep 2 platforms silent. They'll be our surprise later." "Yes, Commander." The second wave closed in, plasma and kinetic bursts lighting up the black. Drones darted between enemy fire, forcing the Zorith ships to waste shots. Alyssa waited. Her eyes were on the larger formation, the ships hanging back just outside the primary combat zone. The real threat. She knew Karzul wasn't going to spend his full strength here. Not yet. The Zorith vanguard reached Mars orbit and slowed, regrouping for the push toward Earth. "Now!" Alyssa ordered. From hidden positions on Phobos and Deimos, heavy rail batteries fired. 2 Zorith cruisers folded under the impacts, their armored prows torn apart. "Keep firing until they pull back," she commanded. Karzul's jaw clenched as more of his ships vanished from the tactical board. "So, they have teeth. Let's see if they still bite when the full swarm comes." He gestured to his operations officer. "Signal all fleet groups. No more probing. We take Earth in one strike." Alyssa saw the enemy formations shift. Every surviving ship, over 200 by her count, began aligning on a single vector toward Earth. The final wave was coming. She stood at the center of the command deck, hands clasped behind her back. "All units, prepare for full engagement. This is the fight they came for." Vega turned toward her. "If they breach orbital range." "They won't," Alyssa said. Her voice left no room for doubt. By the time the enemy fleet passed Mars, the void between the planets burned with wreckage. The second wave had failed to break the defense lines, but now the true test would come. Alyssa's gaze swept the tactical board. Every ship, every gun, every drone was in place. The trap she'd been building since the first sensor ping was ready. She allowed herself a thin smile. "They think they've seen our best," she murmured. "They haven't seen anything yet." The Earth Defense Coordination Center sat 30 floors beneath the granite spine of the Colorado Rockies, its concrete corridors thrumming with energy. Alyssa strode into the main operations bay, her boots echoing against the polished steel floor. Banks of holographic displays cast pale light across tense faces. Every screen showed the same thing, hundreds of massive alien vessels burning toward Earth in perfect formation, their hulls reflecting starlight like the carapaces of deep-sea predators. "Status," Alyssa asked sharply, sliding into the central command chair. Fleet velocity steady at .06 light, replied Tactical Officer Mason. Projected time to atmosphere penetration, 39 minutes. 39 minutes until the largest invasion force in human history reached firing range. Alyssa's jaw tightened. Communications. Patch me to all orbital defense stations and fleet captains. Secure channel. A soft chime acknowledged the connection. All across Earth's defense grid, railgun platforms, orbital interceptors, stealth drone swarms, commanders stopped to listen. "This is Commander Alyssa Vega," she began, her voice steady but edged with steel. "An alien fleet is approaching with hostile intent. Our orders are simple. Stop them at all costs. You are the tip of the spear. Remember your training, trust your systems, and fight like you're the last shield Earth has." The channel closed. Mason's eyes flicked toward her. "Think they're ready?" "They'll have to be," she replied. Across the room, an AI-generated tactical overlay pulsed to life. Red arcs showed probable attack vectors. Green nodes marked Earth's defensive assets. The center of the display, Earth itself, looked small, almost fragile. "Enemy fleet has adjusted formation," the sensor officer reported. "Their lead vessels are charging main weapons." Alyssa leaned forward. "Weapons signature?" "Unknown. Energy output is extreme." The comms officer interrupted. "Incoming transmission from the alien flagship." Alyssa's brow furrowed. On screen. The display shifted to show the interior of a vast alien command bridge. At its center stood a towering figure in dark ceremonial armor, Grand Admiral Karzal. His eyes glowed a deep, predatory amber. "This world is claimed by the Zorath Dominion," his voice rumbled, deep as tectonic movement. "Surrender your vessels and cities. Resistance will be met with annihilation." Alyssa didn't blink. "This is Earth. We don't surrender." Karzal tilted his head slightly, studying her like a scientist examining an insect. Then the feed cut without another word. Silence filled the bay. "Targeting systems online," Mason said, breaking it. Alyssa issued the order without hesitation. "Initiate Operation Hailstorm." The command triggered a cascade of events across orbit. Hidden defense satellites powered up railguns the size of skyscrapers. Kinetic slugs, each weighing several tons, loaded into magnetic barrels. Deep in the lunar shadows, stealth launchers uncloaked and primed their payloads. The aliens were still closing when Earth struck first. A flash of brilliant white streaked across the void, 10 projectiles fired at relativistic speeds. There was no time for the Zorath to react. The impacts tore through 3 of their forward cruisers, splitting them into molten fragments that tumbled in silence. In the alien flagship's war room, Karzal's claws curled against the railing. "They dare," he hissed. The human operators didn't have time to celebrate. Multiple enemy vessels adjusting course. Return fire incoming. Outside, lances of plasma the size of city blocks flared from alien batteries, slicing toward Earth's orbital ring. Alyssa's voice cut through the chaos. "Evasion pattern Sigma. Deploy point defense drones." The drones fanned out like a swarm of angry hornets, intercepting incoming plasma bolts with counterbursts of ionized tungsten. The vacuum lit with detonations, each one a miniature sun. 3 hits on the Andromeda station, Mason reported grimly. Casualties unknown. Alyssa forced herself to focus on the bigger picture. Retask lunar rail batteries to suppress their flanking carriers. We keep them off balance. The next volley from Earth's side ripped another alien destroyer in half. Debris drifted across the Zorath formation, scattering their attack rhythm. Alyssa could sense it, their perfect formation beginning to fray. But then a sensor alarm blared. Multiple energy spikes, alien dreadnoughts charging superweapons. She didn't need the analysis. If those weapons fired, Earth's defense ring wouldn't hold. All batteries, all platforms, concentrate fire on those dreadnoughts. Now. From orbital stations to ground-based launch silos, humanity's arsenal roared in unison. Rail slugs, missile swarms, and directed energy beams converged on the alien supercarriers. The first dreadnought shuddered under the onslaught, its shields flaring bright blue before collapsing entirely. Seconds later, its reactor core ruptured in a silent explosion that vaporized everything within a kilometer. The other dreadnoughts faltered, forced into evasive maneuvers. Alyssa seized the moment. Press the attack. Don't give them time to regroup. Earth's defense forces surged forward. Frigate squadrons darted through gaps in the alien lines, harassing vulnerable escorts. Orbital artillery kept up a relentless pounding. For the first time since the Zorath appeared, the tide shifted. On the alien flagship, Karzal watched as icons representing his destroyed ships multiplied across the tactical holomap. He had underestimated these humans. That would not happen again. Signal the second wave, he ordered coldly. Back on Earth, Mason's console lit with fresh alerts. Commander, more ships. A lot more. The new contacts emerged from hyperspace behind the main fleet, reinforcements twice the size of the first wave. The operations bay fell silent for half a heartbeat. Alyssa broke it with a single command. All units, fall back to Phase 2 positions. Prepare for sustained engagement. Mason gave her a sidelong glance. We just bloodied them. You think they'll push harder? Her voice was quiet but certain. They came here to conquer. They won't stop until they believe they can't win. She turned to the tactical display. The enemy icons multiplied like a spreading infection, surrounding the small green nodes that marked humanity's defenses. The battle had just begun, and the real fight was about to start. The command deck of the ISS Valiant was quiet, too quiet for a ship on the edge of war. Every station hummed with restrained tension, the air heavy with the electric scent of anticipation. Alyssa stood near the forward holomap, eyes fixed on the expanding swarm of red markers representing the Imperial fleet. The alien vessels moved like a precision-engineered tide, sweeping in from high orbit with the slow, deliberate confidence of a predator certain of its kill. She noticed the subtle irregularity in their formation, 3 destroyers lagging behind the vanguard by exactly 12 seconds. Not a mistake. A calculated opening. They want us to rush the gap, she realized. Fleet-wide transmission, she ordered. Tell every captain, no one breaks formation. We hold. Let them think we're scared. Commander Rahul glanced up from his console. If they get within 10,000 kilometers, our margin for intercept drops to 0. Alyssa allowed herself the smallest smirk. That's why we're not letting them get that close. On the main display, the alien flagship, a monstrous, spire-shaped dreadnought, began broadcasting a high-powered signal. Its meaning was obvious without translation: surrender or be destroyed. The ship's AI rendered the incoming transmission into crisp English. A guttural voice, dripping with contempt, filled the deck. Humans. Your primitive weapons and fractured alliances end here. Submit, and some of your kind will be spared to serve. There was a pause. Then Alyssa replied, voice steady, almost amused. Imperial Fleet, this is Captain Alyssa Tran of the Valiant. Your terms are unacceptable. Leave our system now, or you won't be leaving at all. The silence after her response felt like a blade's edge. The enemy hadn't expected defiance. Far across the void, Grand Admiral Karzal leaned forward on his throne-like command chair. His compound eyes glittered. They have spirit, these mammals. Let's see if they have anything else. He gestured, and the fleet shifted, dozens of cruisers peeling outward, forming a spearhead. Weapons primed. Mark all jump points, Alyssa said, her gaze sweeping the holomap. Phase shift rails at 30%. Charge coil guns to redline. Rahul hesitated. 30% means we'll have less than a second to lock targets when they break cloak. That's all we need, Alyssa replied. Her mind replayed the simulation she'd run 3 weeks ago, one the Admiralty had dismissed as too aggressive. The plan required pinpoint timing and coordination across every ship in Earth's defense net. But if it worked, the Imperials wouldn't just lose ships. They'd lose the will to fight. The enemy crossed into weapons range. A ripple of energy surged through the Valiant's hull as phase shift rails lit up, bending spacetime in precise, lethal arcs. From Luna's dark side, Earth's hidden railgun batteries emerged from camouflage, magnetic coils thrumming. The orbital defense ring pivoted like the barrel of some colossal revolver. Targets locked, Rahul confirmed. T-8 seconds to optimal firing window. Alyssa's voice was calm. Fire on my mark. 7 seconds. The Imperial spearhead accelerated, confident they could breach Earth's defenses before sustained fire could cripple them. 6. On board the enemy flagship, Karzul barked the order to engage. Hundreds of plasma bolts flared across the void. 5. Alyssa's eyes never left the timer. 4. The first plasma impact slammed into the Valiant's shields, the hull vibrating under the onslaught. 3. Rahul's knuckles whitened. Captain. Not yet, Alyssa said quietly. 1. Mark. The void erupted. From hidden platforms beneath Mars's dust storms, from cloaked satellites at Jupiter's Lagrange points, from the blackness between Neptune and the Kuiper belt, the trap was sprung. Hypervelocity slugs, dense tungsten, guided by AI microthrusters, screamed across space at fractions of light speed. The Imperial spearhead never stood a chance. One destroyer disintegrated in a white-hot blossom of debris. Another was split clean in two, molten shards tumbling silently through vacuum. The dreadnought's forward shields collapsed under the kinetic storm, its hull crumpling like foil. Karzul's voice cut through the chaos on the Valiant's bridge, an open transmission laced with fury. You will pay for this insolence. Alyssa replied before the channel closed. Consider it the down payment. For the first time, the Imperials hesitated. But hesitation was not retreat. Their remaining ships fanned out, abandoning the crippled spearhead and unleashing a wall of firepower at Earth's defenses. Plasma torpedoes and energy lances slammed into the orbital ring, burning through 3 platforms in seconds. Status. Alyssa barked. Ring Section 4 is gone. Luna's grid holding, but heavy drain, Rahul reported. Shift power from aft shields to point defense. Bring the Valiant around. Full burn toward the flagship. Rahul turned sharply. You're going into their line? Yes, Alyssa said. If we take out their command, the rest will scatter. The Valiant surged forward, weaving between the burning hulks of Imperial cruisers. Enemy fire raked across her hull, tearing armor plates free, but the ship's kinetic dampers held. Alyssa's gaze locked on the dreadnought, now visibly listing from the earlier barrage. Arm the harpoon. Rahul blinked. We're ramming them? Not quite, she said. But I want that command deck stripped to the bones. They closed the gap in under a minute. The Valiant's forward harpoon, a magnetic grapple designed for asteroid towing, locked onto the dreadnought's hull and fired. The impact shuddered through the ship. With a roar of engines, Alyssa ordered full reverse thrust. Metal screamed as the grapple tore free a chunk of the dreadnought's forward armor, exposing its bridge to vacuum. Karzul's image flared across their main display, his expression a mask of rage and disbelief. You fight like cornered animals, he hissed. Alyssa's reply was ice. And you've just cornered the wrong animal. Before the alien could respond, a railgun slug from Luna's defense grid punched through the exposed section of the dreadnought. The flagship's lights flickered, then went dark. The Imperial formation faltered, their disciplined lines fracturing as commanders barked conflicting orders. Some ships began to retreat, others charged blindly. Alyssa gave the order without hesitation. Press the advantage. Every hostile that stays in system, destroy it. The trap had worked. But she knew the battle was far from over. The Imperials wouldn't forgive this humiliation. By the time the debris field settled into slow rotation, the Valiant was scarred but intact. Earth's fleet had lost 6 ships, the orbital ring 12 platforms. In exchange, the Imperials had left behind the shattered remains of nearly half their spearhead, including their flagship. Rahul joined her at the viewport, where Earth gleamed below, serene despite the war in orbit. They'll be back, he said quietly. Alyssa nodded. Then we'll be ready. And next time, they'll think twice before calling us primitive. The blast wave rolled across the upper atmosphere like the silent wrath of a god. From orbit, it looked like a great silver ripple sweeping over the curve of Earth, scattering the last remnants of the Zorath fleet into incandescent dust. The event horizon of human retaliation had been crossed, and there was no turning back. Alyssa kept her gaze locked on the tactical display, her hand steady over the fire control interface. Confirm all hostile contacts neutralized. Her voice was calm, but her pulse still thudded against her throat. The numbers on the holographic grid dropped to 0. Confirmed, Lieutenant Vega replied. Zorath presence eliminated in orbit. No escape signatures detected. Admiral Wu exhaled slowly, folding his arms behind his back. His expression was unreadable, but there was no mistaking the weight in his eyes. We've made our point. Now we wait for the galaxy to decide how it wants to treat humanity from this moment forward. The bridge felt different now. The constant tension of incoming fire had been replaced with a thick, charged stillness. Every crew member knew they'd just stepped into history, the kind that textbooks would distill into neat paragraphs, but living through it was nothing like that. Alyssa's ears still rang with the memory of kinetic rounds tearing through warships kilometers long, shredding alien metal like paper. Wu glanced over at her. Status of civilian sectors? Alyssa switched views. Minimal collateral damage. The railgun bursts were clean. EMP spillover affected a few upper atmosphere satellites, but nothing critical. Good. Wu turned his gaze back toward the massive viewport. Beyond it, the glittering debris of the Zorath fleet drifted like artificial constellations. Somewhere in the wreckage, Karzal's flagship was gone, reduced to drifting shards, but a single Zorath escape pod tumbled in the void, venting a slow stream of frozen vapor. Inside, the Grand Admiral clung to consciousness. His armor was scorched, his right arm useless, and his mind reeling. In all his campaigns across 100 star systems, he had never seen destruction delivered with such precision or finality. The humans, he thought, struggling against the darkness pressing in. They had played him. They'd let him believe they were prey. A proximity alert chimed weakly. A shadow loomed over his pod, blocking the distant sun. It was a small human craft, not a warship, but something sleeker, bristling with capture gear. His first instinct was to trigger the pod's self-destruct, but his hand faltered. Curiosity, that most dangerous of traits for a soldier, whispered, "Why would they want me alive?" Earth, Lunar Command Headquarters. In the underground briefing room, the hum of the filtration system was the only sound for several long seconds. Alyssa sat beside Wu as the holographic map of the solar system faded into a flat blue screen. Representatives from the Defense Council leaned forward, their expressions a mix of awe and unease. "So," Counselor Reyes began, "we've just obliterated an Imperial fleet in under 7 minutes. What's the retaliation forecast?" Alyssa answered before Wu could. "There won't be an immediate counterstrike. The Zorath have never encountered a defeat of this scale. Their chain of command will fracture under the shock. Intelligence estimates a full year before they can mount a coordinated response, if they dare." Reyes nodded slowly. "And if they don't respond?" Wu's voice was like iron. "Then the galaxy will know the truth, that Earth is not a frontier to be taken, but a power to be reckoned with." Captured. The interrogation chamber was quiet except for the slow, deliberate hiss of air cycling through the vents. Karzal sat shackled, his mandibles flexing as Alyssa stepped inside. She didn't bother with guards. She didn't need them. "You led the largest Imperial fleet to ever breach human space," she said, circling him like a patient predator. "You expected conquest. You got annihilation. Why?" He studied her, his black eyes reflecting the pale light. "We were told you were weak." "By whom?" she asked sharply. "By everyone," he admitted. "Trade networks, pirate lords, other empires. They called your world unclaimed, ripe. We thought you'd be an easy mark." Alyssa leaned closer, her voice low. "Then remember this when you return to your people. We do not start wars. But we finish them." Karzal's mandibles clicked once, not in defiance, but in something that might have been respect. 1 week later. News of the battle traveled faster than any fleet. Across human colonies, there was celebration. In alien courts, there was silence. The word Earth began to carry a different weight in political discussions, spoken with a mix of caution and reluctant admiration. In the quiet hours of the night, Alyssa stood on the observation deck of Aegis. The curve of Earth hung below her, lit by 1,000 cities. Wu joined her, his hands clasped behind his back. "You've changed the game," he said simply. She didn't look at him. "We've only bought ourselves time. Eventually, someone else will come knocking." "Then," Wu said, his voice calm but resolute, "we'll answer the door the same way." Epilogue. Far beyond the reach of human scanners, in the Imperial capital, the Zoreth Council convened in urgent session. Holograms of the destroyed fleet spun slowly in the center of the chamber. Whispers filled the air. One voice cut through them. "If humans can do this, perhaps they are not to be conquered." But another answered, colder. "Or perhaps they must be destroyed before they grow any stronger." And somewhere deep in the shadows of the galaxy, plans began to form.